Hello here, and welcome to another edition of the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Robin Washett, Philip Fulmer joining us here on the Husker Online Show. No, that's not Philip Fulmer coaching Tennessee in 1998. That's Stephen M. Sipple.
You like this, don't you?
Did you just get back from Key West?
No, this is the shirt I promised I'd wear, and I'm delivering on my promise right now is what's going on.
It's more of a Tennessee orange.
Is it? Is that what this is? I have a light blue one. You guys saw that one. I think that's what sparked interest in the orange one. And here it is. It's what would you call this? A
super saver orange.
Creamsicle on this. Is that what this is?
Look like you're about a 280 average at Sun Valley Lanes.
280? 280? That put me on the tour.
I know.
Yeah.
Look, you don't wear that shirt if you're not throwing rocks.
Yeah. Okay. It's not a bowling shirt, Rob.
It's a casual shirt.
It's cash.
Well, welcome to an edition of the Husker Online Show. As we do every week, let's start off with opening headlines, guys.
Please.
We got a big one, and we teased this Thursday. We had a pretty good idea that Colorado, Nebraska was heading towards a primetime kickoff. The TV networks wasted no time making that official on Monday this week. Nebraska-Colorado will be 6:30 p.m. Central Time on NBC. Primetime. You know, and you look at that week, that's week one of the NFL. And so there's going to be the Chiefs game on NBC Thursday night, the NFL game in Brazil on Friday night, Nebraska, Colorado, Saturday night, and then Sunday night football. And I don't know who is the week one Sunday night game.
They have not announced it yet.
But just the amount of marketing that this game is going to get when you have NFL Thursday on NBC, NFL Friday on NBC, then Deion Sanders, Matt Rule, Shadur Sanders, possibly Dylan Raiola squaring off. What a stage, what an opportunity for Nebraska football to play this game on maybe as big of a stage as it's been played on in a long time.
Right. So last year, the game in Boulder drew they drew 8.73 million viewers, 8.73
second most to watch a game since the 2010 Big 12 championship game.
Okay, and that was 8.98. So it almost touched 9. Well, let's touch 9 million viewers. 9 million viewers will exceed 9 million viewers.
The key is Colorado, North Dakota State the week before, and that's a night game in Boulder. So that's a good draw for Colorado to get that game at night in Boulder. But if they can beat North Dakota State, which I think is a big if.
Yeah, and Colorado fans might say if Nebraska can beat UTEP.
Yeah, but Nebraska at home against UTEP is going to be a massive. North Dakota State's a lot better than UTEP.
Ooh, okay.
They are. Okay. I mean, I don't know what you're trying to,
babe,
trying to start here.
No, I'm not trying to start anything. They're down a division. You know that they're not in the same division.
Right, but there's a North Dakota State actually hasn't played a Power 5 opponent in years because they went undefeated against them all.
I mean, nobody will play them.
They beat Kansas State in Manhattan. They beat Iowa State in Ames. I mean, they've gone on the road over the years and won these games.
Players are watching this. They'll bow up. Anyway, no, that would help if Colorado beats North Dakota State. I mean, keep in mind the number last year was 8.78. Is that what we said? 8.73, whatever it was, in a noon game. I mean,
big noon kickoff, though. Yeah. I mean, which is the most watched television window in college football. A lot of people try to poo-poo the big noon window, because it kind of goes against your social calendar of pre-gaming and tailgating. But the data doesn't lie. Big noon kickoff is the most watched television window in college football. A lot of it is because there's not as much competition in the 11 a.m. window. But it's still, I mean, college football was in its form meant to be played at noon on Saturdays. I mean, that's how it started.
1 o'clock.
1 o'clock. I mean,
remember 1 o'clock?
That was I remember people would go to the game in Omaha at 1, and you could like get back and make it to 5 o'clock church still.
Whoa, really?
Well, those games weren't much longer than 3 hours back then.
No, they weren't. God, that's interesting. I would not have guessed that. Yeah, 1 o'clock was always the standard kickoff time. Noon, I love. Oh, I love noon.
11 a.m. Central, noon Eastern, obviously.
I love it. Get your day going.
To your point about could it hit 9? I'll reference what Sean brought up, which I think is a pretty big point to all that, is the amount of advertising that's going to go into that game leading up in the days before, to where the two the very first NFL games of the season. Everybody's going to be watching. It's going to draw huge numbers, and they're going to plug that game in throughout both of those contests. And so there's going to be national marketing for Nebraska-Colorado. And assuming that both teams do what they're maybe expected to do, maybe Nebraska more so than Colorado, then all of a sudden that's going to be a marquee game on prime time.
And just something about Deion Sanders coming in here at night.
Yeah.
It just hits different.
Mm-hmm.
That's for sure.
I mean,
it does. It really does.
Will he wear? I mean, I'm assuming he'll wear sunglasses at night. You think he will?
Well, I mean, the game kicks off at 6:30, so
it'll still be sunny.
There'll still be sun, so he'll probably. Yeah, there you go. There, that good job, Megan. I wonder if those are the Deion. Yeah, those are the Deion glasses.
That guy behind him, that was the guy that what we saw walking on the parking lot.
Yeah,
remember he was like yelling at a guy on the phone.
Yeah, about something that transpired on game day. He was like
some of the coverage.
Yeah, he's one of the handlers. He's one of Deion's handlers. Huh.
But yeah, it's gonna be as hot of a ticket that I can remember. I mean,
we always say Miami,
but I don't know if that was a hot ticket. This will be a hotter ticket. I really believe that.
It'll be weirder. I mean, Colorado. I mean, Miami wasn't a weird program. It was Al Golden. It was pretty standard fare, but it was Miami, and there was a history between the programs. Now it's Colorado, border rival, history between the programs, and then all the weirdness that Deion brings. And I'm just going to call it weirdness. It's weird. Mm-hmm. It's weird what's going on.
Make up storylines.
Yeah, it's weird what's going on in Boulder. We saw it firsthand. It was weird. Mm-hmm. And now that show is coming to Lincoln.
Yeah, and who knows what type of motivation they're going to create, like they did last time, where they said Nebraska was stomping on the buffalo when in fact they were doing their pregame prayer and invited Shedeur Sanders into it, and he's like trying to pick fights with the players, and they just make up these narratives to like motivate themselves. And so who knows what's going to boil up to that point.
Yeah, well,
I'm sure something will come up. Revenge against Rule for disrespecting my dad.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, hey, Sean, honestly, as an organization, we'll have to be ready for some concocted drama.
Mm-hmm. You know what? Nebraska's media department needs to give the Colorado media parking and make it be like 27th and Superior.
Yeah, 27th. Yes.
Because
don't do that.
Well, that's where they made us park.
Yeah, that will concoct the
make them park in.
Yeah, but the last time we were there, we parked like a normal media, like just everything.
Oh God, that's right. We did walk a long way. That's
right.
We illegally parked.
We illegally parked in a park
and walk.
That's right.
And we walked a trail with like hundreds of pounds of equipment with us.
We did. Then we just walked in the stadium without showing a pass. It was so weird. Remember that?
Yes.
We just walked in. Nobody even checked us. Very odd times.
I will say this, though, the crowd noise, I'm just starting to think about what this is going to be like. I mean, you're going to have a brand new offensive line, presumably a left tackle that's a true freshman for Colorado.
For Colorado, yeah.
And just that crowd noise. I mean, there's going to be just those like crazy loud crowd creates the false start moments. I mean, I'm calling that shot right now. And there'll be like 2 in a row at one point where Memorial Stadium just comes unleashed because they caused this young offensive line to get. I mean, they're not going to be ready for this noise. I'm going to say that right now. There's no way you can be. Mm-hmm. You saw Dylan Gabriel's comments, even on Memorial Stadium on a bad Nebraska team. He said it was the loudest and most crazy third down field that he's ever played in his career.
Yeah, it'll get crazy. And then the night game, it escalates.
And the weather will be nice, presumably.
And just recent history. I mean, Colorado's had Nebraska's number and won in very embarrassing fashion the last few meetings that they've had here. And so there's going to be a lot of built-up animosity from the fan perspective.
Yeah, what we're talking about here is the word bloodlust. Mm-hmm. There's going to be a lot of bloodlust.
Just like Miami 14.
Yeah, there was that. There was that.
All right, well, we'll know more kickoff times in the coming weeks ahead. That was one of the pre-selected ones. Very few Big Ten kickoffs have been released. Fox has put out a couple early 3-1, like the Michigan-Ohio State games, one. We know Texas had Michigan's another. Fresno State and Michigan is week 1 NBC. But
say that again.
Fresno State at Michigan is week 1 on NBC.
Okay.
So they've only put out a few early kickoffs thus far. And that's what happens right now. This is kind of like you make your first round picks, and then we'll start to know the rest of the schedule here soon. So when we come back, I want to discuss, guys, the over-under win totals. Some of those numbers have been released. We'll hit on that next. You're listening here to the Husker Online Show. And we're back here on the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Robin Washett, as we take you through here in the month of May. And before we get to some over-under win discussion, this segment of the Husker Online Show brought to you by Ellerbrock-Norris. Ellerbrock-Norris has been helping Nebraska business owners protect their purpose for over 120 years with risk management solutions built for local businesses. Ellerbrock-Norris partners with you on commercial insurance, group benefits, business exit planning, safety, and more. Start thinking long-term with your business and create a risk management strategy to protect it. Are your employee benefit costs going through the roof? Talk to Ellerbrock. Workplace injuries skyrocketing your workers' compensation costs? Talk to Ellerbrock. Hoping to retire in the next 10 years and sell the business to keep employees or friendly competitors? Talk to Ellerbrock. Ellerbrock-Norris is helping you protect your purpose, whether it's your business and the employees in it, your life outside of work, or your future retirement goals. Head to ellerbrock-norris.com/HuskerOnline today to get your free risk evaluation. Thanks again to Ellerbrock-Norris for sponsoring us here on the Husker Online Show, guys. So the over-under win totals came out, and there had been some that had come out already earlier, but kind of the more official Las Vegas ones came out. Brett McMurphy has done a really good job of kind of putting these out as they hit.
Okay.
And you look at the Big Ten Conference, Nebraska's at 7.5 right now for over-under win total. So it's an interesting spot in the conference because Ohio State and Oregon are both at 10.5. That's not a surprise. I will say this: Michigan at 9.5. I think that's way too high.
Their schedule's ridiculously hard. I don't know if Megan has that, but they have
they're 9-3, 8-4 at best. There's no way Michigan's winning 10 games. No way.
Well, I would say this: with a schedule like Nebraska's, I would say they would. I'd say they would. I'd say they win 10. With their schedule, nope. No, it's tough. It's a markedly harder schedule than Nebraska.
Well, and Penn State,
there it is right there. Ponder that for a second there, babe. Fresno State out of the gates, not easy. Texas, come on. At Washington. Now Washington's down. But you hit Oregon at Ohio State. That's a ridiculous schedule, is what that is. Michigan will struggle to get 8 out of that.
Yeah, with what they've added to that schedule. I also think Penn State at 9.5. I'm sure they could go 10-2. Yeah, I'm not saying they can't, but
they always do.
It's just going to be interesting. They have Drew Aller back, but those 4 teams, clearly the class of the Big Ten. Then you've kind of got a mash of teams that are in that 5 to 7.5 area. Nebraska's in that group, but they find themselves at the top. Iowa, Nebraska, USC, and Washington are all at 7.5. Mm-hmm. Washington's not going to win 7.5. They're not. They lost like their whole team to the NFL. They have a new coach.
I know that.
You can't even name their quarterback right now.
No, I couldn't.
I couldn't. I mean, seriously.
No, I don't think I could. Minnesota's the one I get stuck on. Minnesota. I got Circus Sports over under, and they have them at 5.
Okay, on the Action, the Action Network HQ, they have them at 5 as well.
Minnesota's on the slide. What I've heard is PJ Fleck tried to get out of that job. He can't. This is hard for his ego because if they're in that range, they're way at the bottom of the Big Ten. They're in the 14th, 15th range. That's what's happening to Minnesota. Why is Minnesota sliding like this?
NIL.
Yep. That's why PJ Fleck is publicly grandstanding, complaining about Minnesota's NIL and the lack thereof, and the fact that they can't get any players and they can't keep players.
There you go. How about the other one, kind of low key, interesting to me, is Illinois. I got them at 5.5. This is Brett Bielema's 4th year, and I thought, now this is just a projection, but I thought they'd be a little further along. Remember, he won 8 his second year, slid back. And now, is this slide going to continue too? What's going on there? How's their NIL?
Well, he had 3 NFL draft picks in that secondary on that 8-win
We had a Lovie Smith players.
Yeah. They should have beat Michigan that year.
Yeah, they should have. You're right.
I mean, they got a bad call.
Right. No, you're exactly right on that. They were pretty good.
Really good.
8.
That defense was elite.
Yeah. 8. And it was Lovie Smith. Remember, Lovie Smith played more freshmen than anybody in the country, and then those freshmen got to be veterans, and they were pretty good. Now, what's going on there? Why is Illinois not further along?
Yeah, their collective is pretty low level too.
Is it? God, that's what we're talking about.
For basketball, it's pretty good.
Collectives.
Now,
just think about what you're saying, how important collectives are right now.
When this $20 million revenue sharing pot becomes accessible, that will help a lot of Big Ten teams, but still the better teams are going to have their collectives on top of that 20 million.
Like Nebraska. Well, I mean,
like Nebraska, like Ohio State, like Oregon. Michigan is not really heavily collective driven. I mean, they you hear that, like they're not a big NIL operation.
People will not like to hear us put Nebraska in the realm of those other schools. I know what you're doing. It's a collective driven conversation, but I mean, Nebraska still got to prove a lot on the field is what I'm getting at.
Yeah. They have to get themselves in a position to be able to get those players to want to come here. Like when you get to a point, there's a lot of schools that can make the payment to get a player.
Mm-hmm.
And it more now comes down to what's the player want to do.
Yeah.
If there's 4 or 5 teams in the market, they all can kind of make a similar NIL type offer to you. Then your program success matters.
Those are real. I mean, listen, I love the over-under discussions in May. I really do, because it gives you a sense of where programs are. USC, for instance, on the same plane as Nebraska in terms of over-under. Again, Lincoln Riley, what's going on at USC? I mean, he came in there. I don't know what they're paying him, but it's a lot. Very high profile, and there's USC sliding back.
I wonder how much of it, though, is just the unknowns about how they're going to adjust to the Big Ten.
Yeah.
I mean, they're playing a different game now. And how's that roster going to hold up?
Yeah.
How's the
defense going to hold up?
How the heck is Indiana at 5.5?
Their skill is really good. I can answer that. Their skill position talent, check it out. They're good. It's good skill position talent.
And I'm sure you're shocked by this, Stephen M. Sipple, that Purdue is the lowest over. I mean,
your boy.
It's horrible. And they have a very questionable hire as their head coach, and their schedule is really rough. They have a rough schedule.
Mm-hmm.
When we go up there this year, Ryan Walters is going to look for you.
He's going to seek me out.
Where's Sipple? Where the hell is Sipple? That orange shirt wearing
old man.
Mother effer.
Wow. Easy, big horse.
You can say you ain't in Columbus anymore, Sipple.
Yeah. I'll bring it on. Bring that on. I'll be ready. I'll say win some games. I mean, you win more than a field.
Don't lose your premier edge player to A&M. Pay him.
Mm-hmm.
Pay the guy's buddy. You had the best pass rusher in the Big Ten.
How's the collective doing, Ryan?
It's not personal. I thought it was a questionable hire. I mean, I just thought it was really like, this is a Big Ten school and you're just going to hire a coordinator from Illinois. Okay. Settle on that and see what it gets.
Well, we just talked about Illinois being like that elite defense. So that's where the shine was coming from, that he coached up all of those Lovie Smith future pros.
Like, would Lance Leipold have looked at Purdue?
That's a good question. Yeah, I think so. I think you would have looked at it. I think it's a good job.
Is Purdue a better job than Kansas?
They're kind of the same job. They're kind of the same job.
Seems like Kansas is dumping a bunch of money into football now, at least with their stadium.
Purdue did too, though.
They did.
They have to play their games.
Is Purdue a better job than Kansas? Is a worthwhile question. I don't know.
I think maybe the X factor is that Purdue's in the Big Ten.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the money is.
Yeah, and like it or not, in college football, the Big Ten and the SEC, the gap is going to get wider.
Oh, I know.
I mean, Florida State, Clemson, and these teams are at a $30 million a year revenue deficit annually.
That's
and they're losing their mind over it.
That's real. Well, they should be,
because they know that you multiply that over 5 years, 10 years, it's over.
Yep.
It's over.
Yep.
Like, you can't compete with that big of a revenue.
A good example, Rob and Sean, is that look at Purdue's facilities. Look at their indoor facility. Look at their facility that's attached to their football stadium. Kansas didn't have that. Now they're going to.
I mean, look at Northwestern's.
I don't think Kansas had that. Yeah, Northwestern. It's
now they have their own version of like a T. Boone Pickens there, though. The Welch Ryan family. I mean, like the amount of money that family has poured in to. They're going to build them the stadium.
Is that right? God, that's nice to have. It's nice to have that in your pocket, that kind of booster help.
Yeah,
Nebraska has it to a large degree with the Peds. I mean, I want to tell you something. If the Peds ever went away, it would be a major ordeal for Nebraska.
In the last year alone, I would estimate they've poured about at least $10 million of their own money towards NIL, if I had to guess.
Okay.
So
yeah,
who could do that? Who else would do that?
Yeah, and who has the infrastructure? Who could supply the infrastructure that Nebraska has at 1890. Who could do it? It would take 4 different people.
Why anybody would try to ever get in the way of that is beyond me.
Who are we talking about?
I don't know, babe. Get back on your hunting trip. Sipple's going hunting. I
Really?
No.
It's a hunting orange.
You're saying it's a hunting orange?
It'd work.
Okay. All right. I'd like to go to the Caribbean.
Again, multi-purpose.
I'm thinking about it every
Go on
day.
a hunting trip and lounge at the beach.
Yeah.
When we
on the
come
same
back,
day.
I want to talk recruiting. Nebraska hosted a 5-star this weekend. They got a quarterback as well, and they're possibly going to get a 4-star running back. We'll hit on all that next. You're listening here to the Husker Online Show. And we're back here on the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Robin Washett. Before I get into some recruiting talk, this segment of the Husker Online Show is brought to you by Nuts.com. And we've been on board with Nuts.com really since last football season. And if you haven't checked it out or you're not familiar with it, it is premium products galore. They have everything, not just nuts. Lots of candies, dried fruits, pretzels, snacks. As Steve Sipple would like to say, pantry staples.
Pantry staples is a term I'd never heard till a few weeks ago. Pantry staples.
But we have gotten a lot of the Nuts.com. We bought some of our own, and the bourbon pecans. You're looking at them right there.
Yeah.
Those will not last a day.
Nope.
You and Robin go through those like you haven't eaten in weeks.
Yes.
You too.
Mostly you. You guys are. I can't get to them fast enough.
People in Chicago were asking me about how you open the bags of Nuts.com. I'm like, yeah, like a raccoon.
I had a moment one day, a stressful day after riding when I came up here. I had a moment.
They're in these perfectly resealable, usable bags, and there's a little slit, and you just pull it across. Yes. Steve Sipple kind of likes to do a full just tear apart. That's fine.
With his teeth.
But look at that. The milk chocolate pecan clusters. Well,
oh, yeah, don't get those.
Those
things
are
high level.
They are high level.
Oh, God.
They are high level. That's holiday fare, I think.
Yes.
But
put those out on your Christmas get together.
We've got a great special, though. If you've never tried Nuts.com, we've got a special here for first-time customers of Nuts.com at Husker Online. They're going to give you free shipping. You just got to spend $29 or more at nuts.com/Husker. Not only will they give you free shipping, they will give you a free gift as well for a first-time new customer of Nuts.com. That's nuts.com/Husker, $29 or more, and they're going to give you free shipping and a free gift as well. Thanks again to Nuts.com for sponsoring us here on the Husker Online Show. Okay, let's talk recruiting because things are picking up. Nebraska had a big weekend, but let's get to the quarterback news first. TJ Lateef commits over the weekend, and this is big because they really only courted one quarterback hard. I mean, there was a period where Alex Mansky was the guy, but the minute Dylan Raiola jumped on board in December, things just kind of went dead with Mansky, and he switched, or he committed to Iowa State, which, I'll go to Iowa to Ames is really, close in proximity. So it made a lot of sense. But they began targeting TJ Lateef immediately. And that was the only guy really since December that they've been on hard. They get him on campus for his official visit in April. They lock him up after the spring game here this week. So it was a huge day for this recruiting class because they haven't really gotten a national recruit yet. A lot of local 3-star-ish type guys that typically would always go to Nebraska. Lateef is really the first true national battle, in my opinion, they've won.
Yeah, number 25 quarterback in the On3 industry rating. He visited Colorado, by the way. Colorado, my guess is Prime didn't lay out a plan for development like Rule did. I don't know that Prime lays out plans for development for anybody because they don't really develop anybody. They just go in the portal and try to get them. Excuse my commentary. This guy, TJ Lateef, also had offers from Auburn, FSU, Georgia, Texas A&M, UCLA. I watched a lot of him. He's a smooth operator. And I hate to say it. Don't kill me for this, but his delivery, his follow through reminds me a lot of Dylan Raiola's. And this might be the Mahomes effect on young quarterbacks. They look like they're trying to emulate Mahomes to me. But anyway, this TJ Lateef is when I say smooth operator, it's important because he makes it look easy. But Rob, he's a 2-year starter at a powerhouse. I mean, they play great competition.
At the best level in California.
Yeah. And again, he doesn't ever look stressed. Again, reminds me of Dylan in that way. And yeah, I mean, Sean, I was really impressed that Glenn Thomas went and locked down this guy the way he did, especially with what Lateef said, that Nebraska was the most consistent that he felt wanted. But the consistent message is that's a good sign that Nebraska has a consistent message.
So was Thomas the lead on this?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, Glenn Thomas was the lead recruiter. Now I'm just reading Brian's stuff, Brian Munson. But it was pretty apparent.
Interesting. So this is kind of his first big addition.
That's his job, though. He's the quarterback guy, and you got to get one guy. And I think that's so important every year. You've got to get a quarterback every year, one a year. I mean, last year was a rare year where they got 2, but you have to be prepared for movement every year in that room in the transfer portal.
Oh, yeah.
And you need a quality one every year. And you just don't know where your room's going to go. And they got that guy. Now, this weekend, David Sanders was in town, highest ranked recruit to ever visit Nebraska in the online era on an official visit. And it can't get any higher. He's number 2 overall. I mean, to be a higher
tackle.
Left tackle out of Charlotte, North Carolina. But people are like, oh, how do you, they've never hosted a number 1 overall guy on an official. I mean, Dylan Raiola at one time was number 1 overall. He didn't finish number 1 overall in the industry. And I'm going off of the composite, which we call the industry ranking at On3. So they had a great opportunity. Caleb Benning was a part of the trip this weekend with Damon Benning and his family. So you had them here. And I thought that was big. And then the Raiolas.
Yeah.
So you had and Matt Rule, I think, really thought this through. Like, all right, we're going to have this top-ranked guy here with his family, his grandparents. Let's bring the Bennings down. Let's bring the Raiolas down, and let's try to really create a family atmosphere. And from all reports, things went well on the trip. Now there's a gauntlet of visits to come, though, with Ohio State and Alabama and Georgia and Tennessee that he's going to go on here in Clemson over the next month. Can Nebraska survive that and still be on his mind? That's the question.
It is. I mean, I hate to say it because it's cliche, but there's only one way you're going to make it happen. You got to get him here. So they did it, and you got to pay him. You got to pay him. They keep doing it. I mean, Nebraska's bringing in the highest profile recruits they can. The highest profile recruits pretty much available. They're not hitting. They haven't hit yet, but you got to keep trying. And a lot of it now, what if they start 7-0? Then that's when you might start seeing the tide turn a little bit. I shouldn't say that, though, because I don't think they're going to start 7-0, but you never know.
You never know. So I know that there was some response to this visit that people kind of just took it as like, wow, Nebraska got him on campus. That's your win. Like, they're not going to get him. But the fact that Nebraska got this caliber of player, the highest in the history of the internet rankings recruit ever on campus, like, that's a win in itself. I mean, do you view this as kind of just like that's kind of where it ends for Nebraska, or is there a real traction here that they're actually going to compete with the best of the best? You don't know, because he's going to take his other trips. He is high profile enough where he'll call the shots. And can Nebraska be on his mind after these trips? I mean, did they do enough to at least be a thought for him? And look, he's going to go visit everywhere else in the country: Georgia, Clemson, Alabama, Tennessee, and Ohio State.
Rob, here's the distinction you have to make in your mind. Yeah, fans think that way. Oh, good job. Got him on campus. That's all you can do. You're not going to get it.
Cynical, beat down Nebraska fans.
But the coaches and the staff, Rule and his staff, don't have to think that way. They can't think that way. So the fans and the cynics can think one thing that's much different than the people that are actually involved. And I understand. Now, I understand where the fans are coming from, too. Listen, I understand where they're coming from because I'm a media person, pretty detached. And I don't roll my eyes at this, but I recognize that this is a long shot. You can recognize it's a long shot. It's a long shot, but long shots sometimes come in.
Yeah.
All right.
Start somewhere.
Briefly here, Jamarian Parker, that's the next guy to watch, the 4-star running back out of St. Louis. On 3, Steve Wilfong this week, shared his thoughts. He's had an RPM in a recruit prediction on him to Nebraska for several weeks. But that's the one I think we're all watching, that they can close on him at the running back spot. So keep your eyes on that.
Okay. How soon?
I don't know. I mean, these kids will announce kind of when they do it. I mean, here's what usually happens. They get with Hayes Fawcett, and Hayes Fawcett drops an edit on their commitment. I mean, a lot of times these guys don't even give a heads up when they're going to do it. And I've been on the back end of these conversations with Hayes and a prospect on messages, and they're like, "I'll get it to you at 2:00 on Wednesday," and then they announce it at 2:00 on Wednesday. I mean, it just, there is no press conferences and these types of things. It's generally the edit is now kind of the thing to do.
Wow. So Nebraska's got an excellent chance.
I think they do, yeah. And it wouldn't surprise me if you just saw like an edit drop, with his announcement in Nebraska. So in Alabama and TCU have recently offered him. He was once an Arkansas commit.
Oh boy, interesting.
But all right, when we come back, Abby Barmore will join us next. You're listening here to the Husker Online Show. And we're back here on the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Robin Washad, Abby Barmore joining us here for the mailbag. But before we get to that, this segment of the Husker Online Show is brought to you by Heartland Red. If you're not familiar with Heartland Red, they are Lincoln's quality premier deck builder, locally owned and operated here in Lincoln. They put small decks, large decks, pool decks, standalone decks, you name it. They can do lighting, column wraps, privacy walls, underdecking, and more. They've got a great local showroom here to take a look at things. And, it's that time of year. You want to entertain, you want to enjoy your backyard, beautiful evenings in the summer. You want to have a great deck space to have those events and those family gatherings out back. Heartland Red is going to make sure they find you the right setup and design that fits your needs and desires. Check them out at their website at heartlandred.com. Give them a call at 402-405-5755 to set up a bid. They'll come out, check things out, give you a better idea of what you want. Thanks again to Heartland Red for sponsoring us here on the Husker Online Show. Okay, let's get into the mailbag with Abby Barmore. Abby, where are we starting off?
Okay, here we go. The Huskers now have taken commitments from 3 pocket passers in the last 2 classes. Is this deliberate move because of the fumbling issues of running quarterbacks last year, or why?
I still believe that all quarterbacks are still good enough athletes to run if they have to. It's a matter of, the Adrian Martinez guy that, is more of a running back that can take off and run. They're not taking those kind of guys, but I think it's important that you have quarterbacks that can step back confidently in the pocket on 3rd and 8 and deliver a pro level throw, because that's what it takes in this conference. You're playing against pros. You got to have guys that can make pro level throws in the pocket, especially on 3rd and 8 type situations. You can't just expect the quarterback to run for 3rd and 8s and that to be a consistent formula.
I like a quarterback who can do both, though. I mean, I don't mind pass first, but like when I watch TJ Lateef, he's got functional speed. He can, if he has to,
he's like CJ Stroud.
Yeah. If he has, probably a little faster, babe. I'm gonna call you babe again. It's my name. He can get out. I think Dylan can too. I mean, we saw in Hawaii a couple times Dylan kind of thunder up the field.
We saw in the spring game.
Yeah, when he decides to tuck it and go, it looks pretty good.
Yeah, and I think that it's just finding the right balance of a guy that can win you games in the pocket, but also be athletic enough to beat defenses if they don't respect him as a runner. And I think that they have that with the guys they've have on the roster and are recruiting. Like there's enough athleticism there that you can have that element of the QB run game. It's not just a statue back there.
No,
even though they're regarded as pocket passers.
Right. Abby, I would not say this is a result. What Nebraska's doing is a result of the fumble issue. I'd be surprised if that's the case. Like if you ask Satterfield, I guess he'd say no, that's not.
And you got to have guys that are comfortable enough to sit there in the pocket and not have that first instinct be first read, second read's not there, take off and run, which I think has been a problem with some of the dual threat guys they've had in the past.
Okay. Nebraska's walkthrough room is up and running. What are your thoughts on what this can bring to this team?
It's just a really, unique thing. I mean, I have to think there's nothing like it in college football because you need an incredible amount of space, that to have the width of a football field, essentially 20 yards. Is that what it's 20 yards? So. And then a screen that goes that length where you can line up against, the looks that you're going against. I mean, it's incredible. And they're going to get a lot of use out of this. And, they were in a great spot to build this facility. Very few teams right now are able to do this right now in the current NIL state. They got this project done right before the NIL era began, and it allowed them to think creatively. And this was something Matt Rule brought to the table. I don't believe this was going to be in there under the original design.
There are walk-through rooms around the country. I don't know if any are elaborate as this one and as large. Like LSU has one. They have a walkthrough.
Well, with the screen.
Right. I don't know. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, Sean. I don't know if there anyone's as elaborate as this.
With all these facilities discussions, we've gotten to the point where I don't care unless it helps you win games. And so does this help Nebraska win? I mean, I think that's how you evaluate it. And you could say yes, because I think at the level of access you have to prepare your team in that setting with those resources, sure. If it helps the team win, I'm all for the facilities. If it's a waterfall or a barber shop or something like that,
golf,
I do not care.
A slide
at all. Yeah, a slide.
Get Dabo Sweeney at Clemson. They have, instead of going down the stairs, you can take a slide down. And he said he got the idea from Google when he went out and checked out Google. There's a slide.
That's cute.
Yeah.
Imagine if there was a slide to get down the press box. Would you take it?
Yes.
To get to really?
Yes.
Yeah.
You wouldn't take the slide.
Probably.
It would help me win. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
Beat the crowd. Not have to
It'd
take
be a
that
long
elevator.
slide from the 6th floor.
Is it a tornado slide? Would
Yeah,
I get dizzy?
Yeah. Where are we talking? Where'd you get on the slide is the question.
I don't know. Probably at the top, level 7. And then you just go down the side.
Go down. Okay.
But it couldn't go all
It
the
could
way
take you
down
straight to
because that's a really deep drop. It would
Yeah,
have to
It
be
would have to
twisty
be a
one.
bend, and it could take you straight to the Hawks doors.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be.
I just want to talk about my shirt.
So back to the shirt.
Back to yeah.
All right, next
How about
question.
back to the questions, huh?
Good job.
With Nebraska and Colorado at night, what fan experience aspects do you hope to see?
A light show.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
Good job, Sean.
Brandon Meyer put that together. I know it helped organize that. I'm sure his wheels are spinning. Troy Dannon's wheels are spinning. They got a real opportunity to make that a special night for the Matt Rule era, for Husker Nation. It's going to be one of the best crowds we've seen in that stadium in a long time.
Light show. So would they just do like they did against Michigan that year? What is that ACD song? ACD Thunderstruck.
No, the light show. I'm talking the drone show.
Okay, that'd be good too.
Oh,
But I
yeah.
like Thunderstruck, Sean.
So you can do all of it.
Thunderstruck.
You can
at
do the
once.
drone show with Thunderstruck.
Okay.
I want things to pour gas on the flames a little bit, show old highlights of Nebraska just smoking Colorado, and just get the fans dialed in.
Mm-hmm. That'd be good.
Get
It'd be
'em
good
mad.
if you're up. If
Get
you're
'em
down,
mad.
it's a little rough. But I like all those ideas.
I want to see Nash Hutmacher in that game just blow through Colorado's rookie center and just throw Shador Sanders down.
bloodlust.
Bloodlust. That's what I'm talking
In our
about.
studio from Sean. That was bloodlust.
Hey, they're the ones that talked, and you saw what those fans did to Nebraska fans out there last year.
Oh God,
It was ugly, and we'll talk about that through. I'm sure we'll get into that.
You
more.
notice we get no pushback for those comments because they can't push back. They're
They know. They embrace
horrifyingly bad fans.
it. They embrace it.
Yeah, they do. That's it. They embrace it. What an odd thing to embrace.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily adults. It's kind of just like a rich kind of
Easy,
frat,
Sean.
just like a young kind of punky kid.
It is.
That's what it. And
Those guys
It's a
go to
lot of that.
Colorado,
Now,
and
it's-
the rest of the
I've
guys go to CSU.
and they gang up in groups, and then they're like, let's be mean to people, and
Yeah.
and then they all kind of have fun doing it as a. I mean, it's weird.
There's some adult activity though that's questionable, as we've
We saw it in
discussed.
2019
Yeah.
for sure
Yeah,
with
we
the
did.
adults because the
Mhm.
students were kind of out of there.
Right. We saw some, untoward behavior for sure.
Next question.
Okay. Last year's offensive strategy was likely circumstantial with all the quarterbacks and injuries. What do you believe that the offensive scheme would look like with Dylan Raiola? And will Rule's run game beliefs still be the core to finishing games?
I'd hope so.
mean, the run game to me has to be about efficiency. Can you get 4 yards on early run downs, first down? Can you situationally get 3rd and 2s, 4th and 1s?
You got
like,
it.
That's the run game.
You got
like you cannot get caught up in 200 rush yards a game or 250 rush yards a game. It's the situational. It's the 3rd down conversion rate. What are they going to be in those key situations?
And first down's key.
I like consistency with the run game too. Just because you have a quarterback now, you got to still lean on that run game. Like that's how you win in the Big Ten.
The quick game, the quick passing game, I think can be executed.
And the downfield passing game too.
Yeah, you take. I mean, okay, think about what we're talking about on September 7th, this night game, and you still got to factor in that Dylan is a freshman, and this is a lot. But if you have a run game cranking that night, that takes a lot of pressure off the freshman. Now, when he's a junior, if he's still at Nebraska, he'll be used to this stuff, and it maybe is not quite as important to take pressure off of him. But right now, in that setting, he's never experienced anything like he's about to see in that game. If you get Gabe Irvin and Emmett Johnson cranking early in that game, it takes pressure off of everybody.
And then you get those play actions that are wide open.
Right.
Well, and guys, they were so close last year in Boulder to blowing the dam down with the run game.
They were.
In that second quarter, you could see Gabe Irvin getting downhill.
Remember, we were in the press box. We were standing there going, hey, guys,
yeah.
I think they're going to take over I think Nebraska's taking over this game. Then what happened?
2 critical things. Albano missed that field goal. And then the turnovers by Sims.
Yeah.
I mean, missed field goal and then the combination of turnovers to close. The game was over on that little. But Nebraska, and Matt Rule won't say this publicly, but he knows how close they were to kind of getting control of that game. And it just blew up in a matter of like 5 minutes.
Yeah, they got their downhill game, running game going. Irvin was going.
I know. They're getting chunks.
Yeah.
All right. Final question, Abby Barmore.
What are some of the best night games that you remember going to Memorial Stadium?
Well, I went to one of the earlier ones in history, the Washington game in 91, I believe.
Yeah, it was 90 or 91 for sure. Steve Entman and Billy Joe Hebert. Those were huge.
And my dad just bought his first brand new car we ever got. And I remember like he got that car and he bought it on that Saturday and we barely made kickoff. Like he was going like 90 miles an hour down I-80.
Why were you late?
Because he was getting his truck.
Oh, is it
and
truck?
So my dad and I went, and that was the first night game I ever went to, and they lost. But that was the Washington team that won the national championship.
Yeah.
Trying to think if there's other ones that really come to mind at home.
Well, Florida State, when they came in, and I'm going to say the older generation that's watching will remember, I think it was 85. They came in. That was memorable. The Washington game was very memorable. These questions kill me, Abby, because there's so many games to.
They used to have to bring in portable lights in the early years, though.
Yeah, there's so many games that run together in my mind. There's a Colorado game at night where it was wet.
90.
Yeah, and Detmer, and that little Detmer I think he had trouble gripping the ball all game because of his little hands, and he was way overmatched. And I've never seen it. There was some bloodlust in that stadium for sure.
There's been some road night games that jump out. The one like the Missouri one where it was raining.
Oh yeah.
And the power went out. Remember that? The lights went out and it was like pitch black in the stadium. Yeah. And then Nebraska made that comeback. Gomes had the interception. Sue had the big play. So like that one stands out just because of the uniqueness with the power outage.
Did you ever hear the Tom Osborne story from that game? He's the athletic director and he noticed some things with the secondary of Missouri. And he wrote it down on a piece of paper, and somebody brought it to Sean Watson at halftime.
Kidding me.
And they went after, and remember Niles Paul went free.
I'd never heard that story.
Yeah, Osborne, and I asked him that this last summer, and he would make suggestions, just like small things, and just said, "This is what I'm seeing. If you're interested," and he'd give him a piece of paper.
That is fascinating. If you're interested, that is fascinating. Sean Watson was the type he respected Tom a lot. And Sean had a reverence for great coaches. Sean was a good dude.
Yeah, he was. I always thought he was a really good coach.
Good coach and really good dude. Anyway, keep going.
No, that's the final one. I'm trying to think of the other night games. Sometimes a 2:30 game gets confused as a night game.
It turns dark.
It turns dark.
Yeah.
What the Michigan State game recently? Brandon Riley had that game winner.
That was a night game, right?
Yeah, I can't remember when that started. That one was a good
2016.
That was a big one. That was a big Riley win.
Mhm.
That was one of the few Riley games that you say that was a big win for Riley.
Well, the only Wisconsin win Nebraska's ever had in the Big Ten was that night in Lincoln, and they wore those god awful
Monte Ball
and
fumbled, right?
They misheard this. It was so loud they couldn't hear, and they kind of misfired the last play.
Okay,
but yeah, there's been some really the Ohio State, the very first Ohio State game with the Levante David fumble strip.
Yeah, although you've mentioned that it's true, a lot of fans left that game at halftime, but it was still.
That's when Bo went off on the hot mic.
Right. That's right. That's what elicited those comments by Bo Pelini that ultimately got him in hot water.
But yeah, this will be right up there though. The Miami game we talk about all the time.
Oh yeah.
Is one of the better ones.
Whoa, that was loud.
Yes. But it's gonna be fun, guys. September 7th. All right. When we come back, we're gonna talk a little Husker baseball. I also want to get Robin's thoughts on this new trend going on with college basketball with pay-for-play tournaments, essentially, where teams are going to get millions of dollars now to play in holiday multi-team events. We'll hit on all that next. You're listening here at the Husker Online Show. And we're back here on the Husker Online Show. Final segment of the show. Always having fun, guys, here on the Husker Online Show. And over the last year, Stephen M. Sipple has been the official spokesperson for Larson Motors in Nebraska City. And the ad has kind of caught on a life of its own. And one of our great users this week, Tyler Redwine, made a sign or made an initial video and song of our new sign outside the Husker Line office. And then he was asked to make one for Larson Motors.
He was asked to do that.
Oh, yeah. And so what he did was he took your script and a AI program and his drone programs that he uses created a Larson Motors ad for you. So let's
sell some cars. Let's sell some cars, Sean.
If you find yourself outside,
what do you think?
And if it seems like it might just be the sort of day, the best day, the right time of year, sunny time, where you might just be thinking about getting you a new ride. What kind of ride? A good one, a real good one. You might just want to think about heading on down to Nebraska City to do it. On down to Larson Motors.
Yeah, really.
Larson Motors is one of the Midwest's only dealerships with all the major brands in one location. Finding your next Chevrolet, GMC, Hummer, Ford, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, or Ram has never been easier. So why not start the experience today at LarsonMotorGroup.com or at Larson Motors in Nebraska City. Larson Motors, real people, real deals. Gorgeous Nebraska City. God, please bless the heart of Stephen Sipple.
Okay. Thank you, Tyler Redwine.
Sell some cars.
God bless the heart of Stephen Sipple.
Yeah.
That was really good. It's also scary that we're not going to have jobs in a couple of years because AI just did your Larson Motor ad better than you.
It did. Well, the drone part I can't duplicate.
No.
That's beautiful. We saw it. We saw, and that's pretty much how I imagined it, by the way. Pretty much how I imagined it.
So could he fly a drone from Lincoln to Nebraska City, or would he have to get in the area of Nebraska City?
Robin?
I am not a drone expert.
My guess is he had to get close.
I guess it depends on the quality of your drone. I mean, there are drones that can be operated from across an ocean.
This is Tyler.
Yeah.
I've seen his drone because he flies it downtown in front of the ticket. He'll set it so it's right in front of the window of the ticket. It's a smaller drone. It's not a big drone.
So I'm sure he had a driver.
Yeah, he flies it downtown. It's pretty amazing because that drone's coming at. I mean, it's low.
But that was really good.
Yeah, that was excellent.
All
should
right.
Sell some cars.
Well, thank you, Tyler.
We're trying to sell some cars. That's what we're trying to do.
And I know
Anything that
the folks,
helps.
I know the guys down there saw your ad down there and they had a lot of fun with it. So
Good. I mean, this is all about, no joke, selling cars. That's what we're trying to do.
all right. Well, let's I want to get into two things here. First, Husker baseball this weekend, playing for the Big Ten title. They are one game behind Illinois, who plays Purdue on the road. Nebraska, though, does own the tiebreaker. So what you need to happen essentially is a sweep at Michigan State or 2 of 3, and then Purdue takes 2 of 3 against Illinois. And then Nebraska would be the #1 seed heading into the Big Ten tournament. But they got an epic win on Saturday night, followed up by the Drew Christo performance that I think we've all expected to see over his career out of the bullpen to close out Sunday's game. So they got a huge series win after just a deflating loss on Friday. I was there Friday night, and they gave up 7 runs in the 9th inning. Brutal.
Yeah, I go back to something Will Bolt said early in the season. He wanted his team to be the toughest team in America. Now, what does that mean in baseball? Much of this is a mental toughness discussion. I mean, you can be tough on the base pass and etc., but it's mainly a mental toughness discussion. So you saw that. This season, though, has been very interesting to me because Nebraska has won 11 of its last 13 weekends. They've won 11 of 13, but the narrative with this team isn't all perfect. You know, it's framed up by some as disappointing because of the midweek problem.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
How the midweek, like these Tuesday, Wednesday developmental games, essentially,
right, have kind of marred what otherwise would be considered an excellent season. They have a great chance to win the Big Ten. Great chance. I expect them to. I think they will win the Big Ten. You have that midweek. Then the midweek discussion is over here. So
it's a pride thing, though. When
it is, but
when Creighton beats you and South Dakota State beats you, and you have better players than they do, and all the fans around here know that, it's a gut punch.
It's more, yeah, it's a pride thing, but it's more than that. It may have taken them out of
hosting
an opportunity to host a regional.
For sure, it has. I mean, now I think if you're Nebraska, you're hoping to get a quality 2 seed.
Okay.
You know, now if they swept Michigan State and then swept through the Big Ten tournament, maybe that changes.
Okay.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, their RPI is like 30-ish right now, around 30. They had been as high as in the top 20 all year. But that South Dakota State loss dropped them. But Robin, I wanted to, as we close, I wanted to ask you about this too. I know we're not a Creighton show, obviously, but this got my attention. Creighton withdrew from the Battle of Atlantis, which has become, along with the Maui Invitational, the premier multi-team event over the Thanksgiving holiday. And there's like a new one that's going to be played in Las Vegas, where the teams are going to get paid $1 million in donations to their collective, each team, to go towards NIL. And Creighton, along with several other big brands, have agreed to play in this, and they want to grow it, I believe, to 16 teams down the road.
Yeah, so it's going to be a fascinating case study just to see how this all goes. One, like, is it going to go the way that they're saying it will, like with the payments and all that sort of thing? We don't know because it's never been done before. Like, there's no precedent for how this whole thing is going to work. And so there's 2 ways it could go. It could either completely fall apart, not even happen, or just the payments never make it, or whatever it may be. And then all of a sudden this idea goes away, or it's a rousing success and now everybody starts doing it. And then all of a sudden the ESPN events and Orlando and all those things, they just go by the wayside or adapt and become NIL sponsored events like this one. Because if this works, everybody's going to want to do it. And you're going to decline going to the Diamond Head Classic if you're not getting substantial NIL payment for it. So, I mean, this is going to be a pretty pivotal point in college basketball non-conference scheduling, to see just kind of the direction that this, one way or the other, could take these type of multi-team events.
Wow. Robin, asked to comment on a Creighton move, did a fine job.
It's 2 weeks in a row. Sean.
Well, asking your beat writer, talk about Creighton.
Like, I'm more interested in like what this means for the future, because I do think
it is a very interesting.
If these payments clear, which I have no reason not to think they're not going to, like, it's almost like live golf in college basketball
without the Saudis.
Well, for all we know, the Saudis are doing this.
Easy. Sorry, I brought that as an issue, but no. Yeah, no, you're right.
They're just buying. I mean, like the Maui and the Atlantis are like the prestigious, majors, like golf. And this is all of a sudden like a group that's come in and just bought people out of the majors.
Yep. Interesting. That's,
so we were talking about this off air, but to clarify that it's the collectives that are getting the money and then they disperse that $1 million however the collective/program sees fit. So it's not like an even cut. I mean, could be, but it's not like necessarily a guaranteed even cut to every player on the roster that gets a part of that pool. It's going to be probably divvied up based on NIL value per program.
Is that okay? So if it wasn't, now, Sean, I think you'll have a rebuttal to this, but if I was a head coach of one of these teams and we were getting $1 million, I would push for, I'm going to give each of my players $80,000.
Well, the coaches can't make those decisions.
Okay.
The coaches can't talk about dollar payments.
They can't.
They can't.
You think they don't?
Well, but they can't,
babe.
The collective makes
They
those.
can't.
But the players don't get bonuses though. Like they have a contract, and so this money is probably going to be factored into their already agreements they have with collectives.
It's an interesting discussion. You don't just make a separate contract. Just contract.
You can tear it up, but you can't. The way I understand NIL, you can't like incentivize things like, hey, because we got in this tournament, you're going to get this much more money now. Like you can't say, oh, because you scored the 2 touchdowns in the football game, you're going to get $100,000 extra.
No,
that's where you could get in a lot of trouble with NIL.
This is interesting. $1 million payment's a good deal.
Constantly evolving landscape, and this is just the latest step in. Who knows what the future holds?
Fred Hoiberg and the Huskers, if they had an opportunity, they would jump on this, right?
Everybody would. Every team in the country would want to do this. And that's why, like I said, if this goes well and it's a success, this is going to become the norm where there'll be several tournaments like this that offer maybe not $1 million, but at least a decent chunk of NIL offerings for teams to participate in. And that will, I mean, with these other current, like long-standing Charleston Classic, those types of things that have been there forever that are kind of that lower tier on the MTE scale, they're going to have to adapt or they're going to go away.
MTE, help me with that.
Multi-team event.
Multi-team event.
I knew you were going to kind of have a hard time.
Here's another thing too. This is going to probably shift how many teams participate in these MTEs, where normally an 8-team field is the norm. You probably see that pared down to about 4.
Okay.
So like Maui and Atlantis are clearly the top 2. Nebraska's in the diamond head. Is that more towards the middle bottom?
Yeah, it's middle of the pack.
And it's Christmas. Not very many college basketball teams want to play on Christmas. No. And going to Hawaii is about the only way you could.
Right. So there's that, but you're spending the holiday covering basketball, playing basketball, watching basketball.
Hey, I've got an offer on the table to send you down there.
A lot worse things you could be doing, I'll tell you that much.
But you got to sell it to the family.
Unfortunately, I'm not the sole decision maker on that, on how we're going to spend Christmas, but I'm pushing.
Okay.
I'm pushing.
All right. Well, lots to keep up on. If you're not a member of Husker Online, check us out. We got a great special right now. 2 months of access to Husker Online for $1. Simply use promo code NU1 to take advantage of this great offer. It's for our YouTube and podcast listeners only. That's promo code NU1, 2 months for $1. Busy weekend on tap with Husker baseball. Selection show coming ahead as well. Or excuse me, not selection show, but the Big Ten tournament next week in Omaha. So lots to keep up on the site. Obviously, recruiting is hot and heavy. Make sure you check us out at HuskerOnline.com.